What you may not know is that I twisted Ken's arm a couple of months ago for that particular piece. It's a beautiful piece of music. My subject this morning is, how does Spirit speak to us? Perhaps a better question might be, how does Spirit speak to you? Or a corollary question might be, have you been listening? Are you willing to listen? It's hard to hear the voice of Spirit if you're holding a grudge or feeling like you've been a victim. I believe that the Holy Spirit is willing to speak to all who are willing to listen. From A Course in Miracles, we have this passage. His is the voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again. It's possible, even in this world, to hear that voice and no other. It's not going to be a voice booming down from heaven. Some of you may remember Bill Cosby's presentation or his interpretation of Noah getting his instructions from God about building the ark. How many of you remember that one? Yeah, I knew you would. It's very memorable. No. Cosby is mimicking both voices, and God is explaining to Noah that he's going to destroy the world with a flood, and it's absolutely necessary that Noah build the ark so that he can save his family and the animals. And Noah is whining and complaining about how hard it's going to be, and people will think he's crazy, and just goes on, and finally this voice booms down over the PA system with a question. How long can you tread water, Noah? It's not going to be like that. It is likely to be a still small voice, or a tingly feeling, or perhaps an outlandish coincidence. Spirit may not speak to you of life-changing events. It may just be an answer to a simple question that you've asked. Let me tell you how Spirit spoke to me one Sunday morning right here at Harmony Fellowship. But first I have to tell you a little bit about my dad. You may have heard me say before that my dad was a closet Unity student. We were attending a Disciple of Christ church in Shreveport, Louisiana at the time. My brother and I were not allowed to leave the table until the daily word selection from Unity had been read that morning. The Unity churches were just beginning to form in the late 1940s in the North Louisiana area. And Dad was always threatening to attend one, especially after he'd been in a tiff with the minister in the Disciple of Christ church that we attended. He actually did attend a Unity service one Sunday morning and came back to report that they had a woman minister. There was this one piece of music, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. We had a wonderful pipe organ where we attended church, and when they would play that particular piece of music, Dad would just about float out of his seat. He loved it so. You could not communicate with him until that piece had ended. It was indeed his favorite piece of music. I understood that Spirit spoke to my dad through that piece of music. Spirit speaks to many of us through music. Thank you, Ken, for helping that happen here. One Sunday morning, I was sitting here at Harmony waiting for the service to start, reflecting on my dad's love of the Unity material and how he had exposed me to it. I couldn't help but wonder if Dad knew that I had taken the path that he had declined to take. because they had that woman minister. As I was sitting there reflecting on the question, does my dad know what I am doing? Jay Atkins, who was playing that morning because Melinda had something special on the schedule, began to play a prelude, not listed on the bulletin, Hey Sue, Joy. A man's sorry. And of course my question was answered. That is the fastest answer I have ever received to a question I have asked the Spirit. That falls into the category of incredible coincidence, one of the many ways that Spirit speaks to us. Another way that Spirit speaks to us is what I call falls into the pixie dust category. You get that tingly feeling unexpectedly. I've experienced that as well. My fraternity in college was scheduled to have a hayride, and I was planning to ask a girl by the name of Nancy McWilliams, who happened to be the roommate of Virginia, who would later become my wife. I asked a mutual friend, I said, do you know if Nancy has a date for the hayride? And she looked me right in the eye and said, Jim, let me give you a piece of advice. Ask Virginia instead. She clearly knew something I didn't know. Well, I took the advice and I asked Virginia. Now, I had known Virginia in high school as she was in the class behind me. She was dating one of my high school fraternity brothers, and we often saw each other at parties. And then when we got to college, she was rooming with Nancy. I was trying to get to know Nancy, and they often ate together, so I wound up eating lunch with Virginia on occasion. I did ask Virginia to the hayride. I went to pick her up at the dorm, and when she came out of the dorm, I don't know what happened. She was wearing red pedal pushers and a sweatshirt, and she had an aura about her, a glow. I got that tingly feeling. I couldn't talk. I had the sense that I'd never seen her look so beautiful. I had the sense that my grandmother, who had died when I was a baby, was present. Needless to say, the date went well. One thing led to another, and after graduation, we got married. Dr. Michael Newton, in his book, Journey of Souls, talks about recognition signals that we preview before we come here so that we will be able to recognize our life mate when we meet. Perhaps that's what it was, but in my mind, there's no question that Spirit was speaking to me. Sometimes Spirit speaking is a little more dramatic. I was sitting in a Sunday school class at Richland Hills Christian Church in 1982. At the time, I was struggling in my marriage because of religious differences with my wife. My children were beginning to bail out of the Jehovah's Witness cult, and she felt that I had had a part in that. Of course, I had. I had installed a hot tub in my backyard, and I conducted, completely unaccredited, the Anderson School of Theology on a regular and frequent basis with my kids. And it seems to have worked pretty well. My Sunday school teacher at Richland Hills Christian Church, a wonderful fellow by the name of John Chaffin, read the preface out of Richard Bach's book, Illusions. And it was as someone had reached out and grabbed me by the throat and said, you need to hear this. And I got the message. I went out and I bought the book. I read it in one sitting. It changed my life. It helped me save my marriage. It started me on the path to new thought. I've talked to several other folks that have had the same experience with that same book. Some of you may remember Jan Chase, an associate minister at Unity of Fort Worth. And she told me that Illusions was the book that started her on the path to unity. I resigned my position as elder and stewardship chairman at Richland Hills Christian Church, and I began attending religious science services. I haven't looked back since. So it's clear to me that Spirit speaks to us through the writings of inspired people. Richard Bach was only the first. I would have to add Joel Goldsmith, Ernest Holmes, Charles Fillmore, Eric Butterworth, Kahlil Gibran, and many others, too numerous to mention. Why isn't Spirit speaking to us more often? Could it be that Spirit is speaking, but we're not hearing? And why are we not hearing? Could it be that we are distracted? Distraction indeed seems to be the new gorilla in the room. We have television, cell phones, tablets, iPads, Twitter accounts, and Facebook. We are connected, at least electronically, better than we ever have been in history. Clearing our computers of emails, Facebook posts, Twitter messages, etc., seem to be taking more and more of our time. Driving while distracted, DWD, is fast approaching driving while intoxicated, DWI, as a major cause of accidents. Young people brag about their multitasking skills, but their attention spans seem to be getting shorter and shorter. When I was growing up, television had not reached the hinterlands of Shreveport, Louisiana. We had radio. There was a steady version of Terry and the Pirates, Sky King, the Green Hornet, Inner Sanctum, Fibber McGee and Molly. Boy, that dates me. Anybody remember Fibber McGee and Molly? Yeah, there are a few. That provided the relief from day-to-day activity in a life that wasn't always completely satisfactory. Since radio had no pictures, we at least learned to exercise our visualization skills. For full-depth distraction, however, there were the movies once a week. The streets were safer in those days, and our parents were willing to let us ride our bikes several miles to one of the local theaters. It was affordable, 14 cents if you were under 12, 25 cents once you hit age 13. If you could pass for 12 once you hit age 13, it meant you could have popcorn with your movie. It never worked for me. I was too tall. I was almost a foot taller than my twin brother in those years. There was always a serial in those days, and it would run for 12 or 13 episodes. And in every episode, the hero would be in a situation where you knew that he was going to be killed. And you had to come back the next week in order to see how he survived. We don't have to travel any longer to movie screens. We have them right in our own living rooms. We can watch one after the other. We can stay distracted all day long, and some people do. We know that a healthy spiritual life demands time for meditation and reflection. Do you find it harder to set that time aside for that activity? I know that I do. One of the most important ways the Spirit speaks to us is in our dream lives. The conscious mind goes into idle, and the subconscious gets to use the circuitry no longer cluttered with day-to-day activity. A lot of important stuff happens in our dream lives. A lot of problems get solved, a lot of situations get resolved. How many times have you heard someone say, when you've got a real serious problem, a dilemma, a decision you're trying to make, somebody will say, well, why don't you sleep on it? And you do. And when you wake up the next morning, you know what you have to do. You don't remember how you solved the problem or how you made up your mind, but you did. Countless inventors have admitted that the idea that for their invention, the solution to their inventive problems came during a dream. Creative people often sleep with a notepad by their bedsides because if you don't write it down, you may not remember it in the morning. Joe Greenslade has written a really neat and very brief paper entitled The Creative Actualization Process, and which I'm sure he'd be willing to share with you. It's all about how to maximize the aha moments, and you don't have to be asleep to use it. You do, however, have to take action in order for the process to work. Isn't that right, Joe? The late James Mock, writing in a book called Beyond the Physical and published by his wife, our very own Lucy Jane Mock, posited that we are all equipped with dream networks that are connected not only to our conscious and subconscious minds, but also to our souls. It's on these networks that we sometimes receive images of lives we have lived other than the one that we're currently living. And that holds both past and future. You may remember the movie with Barbara Streisand, On a Clear Day, You Can See Forever. Remember that one? And it makes that point. You may get the most important stuff more than once in a recurring dream. One of my recurring dreams goes like this. I am returning to a huge hotel. Sometimes it's a huge office building, but most of the time it's a huge hotel. And I'm returning because I left something very valuable on a previous visit. And I'm returning to recover that. I know it must be recovered. Sometimes I wake up in the lobby, and sometimes I wander the hall looking for my room. I didn't understand this dream until I read Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, a case study of life between lives. His patience under superconscious hypnosis described my hotel to a T. I then realized that what I had left behind were my soulmates and perhaps a part of me. Jesus told his disciples, as recorded in John 14:2, and by way of comforting them, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, would I have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you? A Course in Miracles makes this point. All your time is spent dreaming. Your sleeping and your waking dreams have different forms, and that is all. One of the important ways Spirit speaks to us is through silence. The scriptures tell us, be still and know that I am God. The workbook from A Course in Miracles puts it this way. Listen in deep silence. Be very still and open your mind. Go past all the raucous streets and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts and obscure your eternal link with God. Sink deep into the place that waits for you, beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and sights and sounds of this insane world. You do not live here. We are trying to reach your real home. We are trying to reach the place where you are truly welcome. We are trying to reach God. Achieving that stillness can be difficult sometimes. When that person being still happens to be a poet, such as James Dillard Freeman, the noted Unity poet, then wonderful things can happen. Inspiration can take place. One of the poems that was especially inspiring to me is found in a book authored by him called What God is Like. The poem that I'm referring to was written by him in a hospital waiting room while he was awaiting his wife's transition. It's called I Am There. Do you need me? I'm there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions, I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness beyond self can you know me as I am. And then, but as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there, yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I'm there. Even if you deny me, I'm there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray and when you do not pray. I am in you and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, for only in your mind are the midst of yours and mine. Yet only with your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I'm there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all, and I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers, because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. Can you doubt that James Dillett Freeman was not listening to the voice of Spirit? I cannot. Are you willing to speak, to let a Spirit speak to you and through you? Are you listening? Think about it.